so I think that's why it's so dangerous to tell women, just wait to get married. Wait to find somebody. And my mom used to be one of those people, and she changed her tune. She often said, literally told me, don't date until you're 30. Don't even think about it. Get your life in order.
Idea.
I know. Diane. Yeah, she's changed her mind about that. She really changed her tune. But what she was meaning when she said that was you should know yourself well before you marry somebody.
Yes.
And that, I think, is still very good advice. I don't think that you should get married if you are not sure about the person's values who you're marrying, if you're not even certain about your own values and what you want, what you believe. And obviously there are circumstances where people's mind changes, and that's totally fine, and you develop together, which is a beautiful thing. But you should still know yourself and be confident in yourself. And I remember I was moving off to Nashville, and she was like, okay, so I've changed my mind. And she was like, actually, I don't think that was the best advice. And she said, you do know yourself. And you are, 20 years old, and you already have a very, thriving career. And this is a very different world than it was 10 years ago. And she even acknowledged, she was like, a lot of the good guys are getting picked up quickly. Oh, yeah. And she also said, this is a very volatile and unstable society, and I want you to have a partner.
Yes.
And I want you to have somebody that you can weather this storm with. And if there is, global turmoil, I don't want you to be alone, and you should be thinking. So those were very real concerns. And so she completely changed her tune, and I'm so grateful that she said that to me so directly, because then I moved to Nashville, I started looking, and knew exactly what I was looking for. And it wasn't like my standards were lower when I was dating because I was younger, but I was looking for somebody to grow with. I was looking for a match.
Yes.
Alex is many years older than me. He's 7 years older than me. And I've had, people have turned some heads about that, but...
That's the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And also when you
I
are...
think 7 years is about, at least globally, that's about the average.
And when you said that about your parents, I was like, oh, that's funny. That makes sense. But in the States, that's kind of weird now. But I was young and I had already graduated.
That's part of the problem, by the way. And I've given this advice to young women. I'm like, date older men.
Yes.
Date older men.
Because
and
the
I say this from
maturity
a man,
levels are so, are very, women, mature faster than men. And
also, as a guy, it takes time to, men and women are not attracted to the same things.
Yes.
So much of this boils down to this psyop that men and women are identical.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. It's all mismatched. The expectations are mismatched. What we want is mismatched.
For a guy to, if you're super, super, super religious, then, the whole getting married at 21 to high school, that kind of works. But for most men, you want to at least feel like you can protect and provide on a basic level before you feel like you're ready to get married. And for most men, that's not going to be at 22. It might be 27, 30, or 30 plus for sure.
And as a woman, I was looking for the same thing because I had a full career. I was living by myself. Had already graduated college at 20 years old. The normal thing for me to do would have been to go over to Vanderbilt and date a Vanderbilt college student. That would be a totally mismatched.
No, it's completely mismatched.
It is, and it's so. Where we were in our lives, we're totally mismatched. What we valued, what we wanted in the very near future. And I was looking for somebody who was very sure of themselves and could provide and could protect. And so I was looking for somebody, who could do that, but also was at a point where we could grow together. I wanted to build a life together. I think you get to a point, and I think that this is really gets back to the crux of, your sister and her friends, of at 40 years old, you have a very established life.
Yes.
You're not going to build a life with somebody. You're going to have to figure out how to fit somebody into your life. You already probably own a home. You have a lifestyle that you want and that you want to keep. You have goals and expectations. You are very set in your ways as a single individual. At a younger age, Alex at 28 and me now, or 21 when we got together. We were both at a point where we were still malleable, and we were able to build this life together and wanted to, and were able to bend and compromise in ways because it really wasn't a big deal. It didn't matter. But I think the entitlement grows as you get older, and the wanting to be set in your ways becomes more of a factor as you get older, so it becomes really complicated, I think, for both men and women. And so then, once again, it's like this whole disconnect of nobody's willing to bend and give, and it's because of a lie especially that we've told women.
It's a lot of lies, man.
Yeah, all of it. Of
So
like,
many
girl
lies.
boss, don't care about men. Men are actually the worst. They're going to ruin your life, so wait and get all your stuff together. Freeze your eggs. It'll be totally fine, and then go find somebody because they'll all be there. Newsflash, they're not.
But didn't you know such and such actress just had a baby at 52?
Yeah. It's like, how do you think she did that?
That's not like the norm, is it?
No.
What do you think is the greatest fear women have in this regard when it comes to dating, mating, marriage? What do you think is the greatest fear amongst women?
I think there's two versions of this answer. I think that women would say, I think the answer that would be most politically correct in this current climate is that they would not do enough before they get married, that they don't achieve enough. That's what I hear from a lot of friends, what I see online, is that like, I'm scared that I don't want to have a baby before I do this. Like, I need to achieve all of these things before I settle down and have a committed relationship. I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out.
Okay.
I think if you asked women on a deeper level and you pushed them harder, because it is biological, I do think that there is a fear of, our biological clock.
Okay.
I think there's a fear of not being loved, not being accepted, not being desirable by men, because that's really, at the end of the day, we're all primal creatures.
Yes.
That's what we want. We want to procreate, whether or not you lean into that or not, or whether you go in a different direction, which, is totally fine. That's your prerogative. But I think just from a primal guttural level, I do think that most women have that fear, and we have just been told to suppress it, and that that's actually a bad thing. So yeah, the majority of what I hear just on a surface level is, I'm going to miss out. I want to travel the world. I want to do this. I need to have my career fully in place. I need to own a home.
Do you know
That's the weirdest. Owning a home before you get, I need to do that. I'm like, okay, then what do you do when you meet? It's just weird, yeah.
It is weird. It's also weird because I always make the point that most people, men or women, don't have careers. Most people have jobs.
Yeah.
And most people don't like their jobs.
No. It's so funny. It's so funny with women where they like hate the patriarchy, they hate the man, and they work for the man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you would rather...
The man that does not care about you.
Does not at all. And you would rather... I'm not even saying that they're choosing this over being some trad sourdough baking, stay-at-home mom, which again, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. But they're dedicating their life to a cubicle and somebody who hates them, and they're choosing not even, to not even date or consider men because that's so important. And they've just been utterly lied to, and it's so hypocritical, and it doesn't make sense at all. It's like you're working for this Fortune 500 company run by a bunch of dudes that literally do not care about you, that are paying for you to freeze your eggs, are paying for you to fly to different states to abort your children because they want you to come back and keep focusing on your career. That's insane to me.
It's insane because this increasing divide and decline in marriage, decline in fertility, decline in birth rate, all of these things long-term will kill a society if they're not dealt with.
That's what Elon talks about constantly.
Yes, there are nations that are, I had, I've spoken about him multiple times on my show, but it was such a fascinating conversation. I spoke to a demographer named Stephen Shaw, who's perhaps the world's leading expert in birth rates and birth gaps and just overall demographics from country to country. And, well, firstly, every single developed country except Israel is below replacement birth rate. South Korea is down to about 0.7.
Their government is flailing.
0.7 births per woman. So what that means in real terms is that for every 100 South Koreans alive right now, there will be an average of 4 great-grandchildren.
That's crazy.
So when we talk about these issues, like it's not just, dating is difficult or these concerns about marriage or whatever. It's like people are just not even, fewer and fewer people are even just coupling up and having a couple,
well, there's so many people that are literally just throwing in the towel. And a lot of men specifically are just saying, I'm done. I'm not even going to try.
And do you know what's wild about it is like, I totally get it. It's not my perspective.
Yeah.
That's not my perspective, and I don't think that's the best idea. Yes, but I do understand it because, I think the wants and desires and fears of each sex are often not that well understood by the other one. That's why I asked you that question. So if in terms of what I know, like the sort of men's fears are, because people often say, like, especially conservatives say, like, men are afraid of marriage. I always say men are not afraid of marriage. Men are afraid of divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. Particularly,
well, the whole legal system is set up against them.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So they're looking at stats and they're like, "What?" And they're also kind of looking around. yes, they're just like, why would I sign up to that? Particularly if they're not religious. Because I'll be totally honest with you. Like if I had no faith, I don't think I'd even consider getting married. I'd just be like, why on earth would I do that, right? To me, okay, it's deeper than that. And due to both my faith and the family I come from and certain traditions, it's like, yes, I absolutely will get married and have children. But from a purely secular perspective, if I didn't have those beliefs and have certain things modeled for me, I'm like, man, I totally get why increasing numbers of men are just checking out
and it's
of
interesting
that
because
and just
marriage
choosing to
is
date and
biblical. Like
Yes.
marriage is, and that's why it's so interesting to me when, people who are not
Well, it's supposed to be.
of it,
Yeah.
when people who are not of faith get married and make a whole big deal of it, which, is great. I'm glad that they're committing to each other, but it's so interesting in the way that they toy with marriage. I think that honestly is one of the biggest reasons why the divorce rates are so high, is because people don't look at it as a sacrament. They don't look at it as anything deeper. They look at it as throwing a party.
They say
going,
it's just a piece of paper.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, it doesn't really matter. We're just doing it. It's the tax breaks, and we want to have a big party, and, it's fine. And so by default, they're looking at it as something that can just be thrown away after a couple of years. And so, I mean, even from the female perspective, I look at it, I don't know if other women do, but I don't think I would put myself in that situation if I didn't believe that it was a sacrament, because what if you get pregnant and have children? And now, I mean, it is risky. And I think ignoring the fact that it is a lie, and is not helpful.